Okay, so in this video I want to talk about chapter 1027 from One Piece. Obviously this video will have spoilers, so if you not have read the chapter yet, read the chapter first, then you can watch this video. Yeah, let me continue. Okay, so we start with Monkey D. Luffy, Yamato Momonosuke fighting against Kaido, continuation the fight after the sky has split. So they fight and they try to stop the big castle to not fall down on the people in Oganeshima, and so that part we see them fight, and then we go to the more interesting part. We go to Zoro and Sanji fighting King and Queen, and because Zoro has slashed King's mask, so King are extremely angry. And we see here how much more stronger King is and Zoro when he uses like mixture of his hybrid form, and we see that in the end of the chapter that King do his red bow, divine bow arrow strike on Zoro, and he put Zoro out from the cliff. And we see in the end of the chapter, we see that King behind. So we see a part of his real, his face. The interesting factor here is with King is we don't know if King is a man or a woman, because Queen in One Piece is a man, so we don't know. So there's a big possibility here that Queen is a woman, a famous woman from some fire people. But the other interesting thing here, when we look at the part of his forehead, of King's forehead, well, that part where the mask is not, the forehead looks very much, it's a bit similar in some sense to Douglas Bullett's forehead. Man, that is not very unlikely that this King is Douglas Bullet, because if you look at Douglas Bullet's body in the movie, it's totally different body shape from King. So it's not. I don't think this is Douglas Bullet. If this is Douglas Bullet, is extremely. I can say like this: it's like 98% certainty it's not going to be Douglas Bullet. It's 98%. So it means 1% certain is 1% left that it can be Douglas Bullet. If it's 98% not. So I think it's more likely it's a female. It's absolutely possible that King is a female. We also have to remember when we talk about King and Queen that King and Queen is just titles for different things. You do not need to be a man or woman to be a queen. Like we know in history, if we go to history very quickly, I know this is not history, this is manga, it's fantasy. But in history, we have, for example, in China, we have in Egypt, we have people that was pharaohs, but they were females. And China was one where Emperor first was a female in between the Tang Dynasty, Wu Zetian, for example, and so on. So the interesting thing here is that for some reason King gets very angry when Zoro touched his mask. For some reason we don't know, he was totally go ballistic. So maybe he or she have something they really want to hide behind the mask for some reason, and I cannot really speculate more about that, because it's impossible to speculate more about what makes it so that the King is so angry. Is this something with like humiliation? What's like the interesting thing here with some of the members of the Beast Pirates are that, for example, they are mixed race. They belong to different races. For example, Jack was a fishman. Queen is a cyborg. working for the German kingdom. Um, King was from the fire people. So all of them are from different places. And if you look at King's clothing is very, very similar to a prison guard in Impel Down 6, for example, same as Shiryu, the Shiryu of the Rain, with the like two skull pattern on his military dress. So is obviously an inspiration of Waffen SS troops from Germany, like that inspiration from that because of the skulls. So this the interesting factor is that I think that is the only thing that makes it obviously that is obviously is interesting. We're probably going to hear more for King in the next chapter. Maybe we're going to see a bit of him. Maybe we're going to get some bit of backstory for him or her, him or her. I don't know. If what was the reason why Kaido chose him or her for as the right hand man for right character for Kaido. As if Kaido die, King will have Kaido's place, like as the leader of the beast pirates. So and obviously King have a very, very, very powerful combination of power because of his natural power is fight with fire, and his devil fruit the Pteranodon. Sorry. So yeah, and so now we know that Zoro gonna fight alone against King, for the King has split them from each other. So King and Zoro are on a different place now. So now the King solo fight and Sanji have to fight alone against Queen. What I think can be a possibility here. I don't say it's gonna be like that, but I only say that it's a possibility that Sanji will fight. Sanji and Frankie will fight together against Queen. It can be a possibility. So even if Frankie helps Sanji against Queen, do not mean that Sanji is weak. It just means that Queen are extremely powerful character. You have to understand that Queen is normal size, not when he's not transformed to his Brachiosaurus. He's as big as a grizzly bear is his normal form. You have to understand that. And at the same time, he have like a Gatling gun put to his arm. So he's very, very dangerous and powerful character. But obviously, I think right now, obviously King is more interesting because now we probably gonna see in chapter 1028 who King really is. And so it's very interesting to see if King is also a man like Queen, or King is a woman, and they have trick with the name that makes the fun with the name. So the King is the woman, and Queen is the man. So that's going to be very, very interesting. And this kind of thing. Obviously, so there's only King and Queen left, and Kaido as the high-ranking characters of the Beast Pirates. Because all of the other was defeated. Jack is defeated. Sparrow is defeated, and so on. So all of them is gone. And what can I more say? So the chapter was a very interesting chapter. Obviously, when you read One Piece, for me, anyways, like some part of the chapter are more interesting than other part in the chapter. Some pages are more interesting in the chapter and other pages in the chapter. Specifically right now, because right now I'm more interested to know more about who King really is. Then, obviously, we know that we don't know exactly what chapter, but we know that Monkey D. Luffy gonna defeat Kaido. We know that already. We don't know exactly how, but we know that he will defeat him. And then obviously now probably obviously many people waiting obviously for Kaido's backstory. Like really explain why Kaido joined the Rocks Pirates and how Kaido, when Yamato was obviously how Yamato was born, who is the mother to Yamato, and all of this kind of interesting information in the future in One Piece. Yeah, and then obviously we're gonna after Wandering have ended, we have to go to our, the next arc, and probably the next arc probably will be something more about the Revolutionary and the Marine, and then we're gonna come to the Blackbeard Pirates and their information more about them and their powers and their backstories and so on. For that, this thing is what makes One Piece so interesting, because they really gives very much details about each of the character in One Piece. So they always have very interesting backstories, what they come from and why they joined this specific faction in the One Piece world and all of this kind of thing. So they always have some importance in some way. For example, Queen was one of the members of the famous scientists that works with Vegapunk, the most legendary man, one of the most legendary characters in One Piece. Wind Smoke, Sanji's father, and all of these famous scientists. So that is very interesting with all of this, and obviously King belongs to a very, very rare group of people. So obviously Kaido is still in his hybrid form. He turns back to his hybrid form first in chapter 1026. He was his normal dragon form, and now he's back to his hybrid form. And obviously with all of these in One Piece, it was an interesting chapter. I look forward to the next chapter, and that's a good thing with it. We're not gonna have any break, so we don't gonna have to. So next week we're gonna read the continuation within chapter 1028. And probably after that chapter, then we're probably gonna have a break. So we're probably gonna see King's face in chapter 1028, and then when we see his face, there's gonna be a break 1 week, and then next week after that we're gonna continuation with chapter 1029. I think. That's everything I really want to say about One Piece chapter 1027. Okay.